Little Steven. And now, Bill Ritter.
The song is called Glory Days. It's an ode to youth and to clubs like this one, the Stone Pony in Asbury Park on the Jersey Shore. Now, it may not look like it now, all closed up like this, but in the 1970s, the Stone Pony was one of the hottest rock and roll clubs in the country. And the biggest act to come from here was Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. The band is now back together and touring, but in the years between then and now, their lives took some pretty strange twists and turns, and none of them stranger than the life of Steven Van Zandt. He with the trademark bandana and the high-spirited rhythm guitar. Little Steven is still rocking, still performing with his musical family. But these days, he's also performing with a very different kind of family, also from New Jersey, and ironically, with a musical name, The Sopranos.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
At first, it's hard to recognize Steven Van Zandt, what with the pompadour hairpiece, the stolen silk suits, and the mafiosa shtick.
What if this didn't go back? Be a problem.
But it doesn't take long to become a believer in Van Zandt or in HBO's The Sopranos. A hit series in more ways than one.
Sandrine.
Van Zandt plays mobster Silvio Dante, who owns a strip joint with the godfather of the show, Tony Soprano. He's also something of a family man.
What are you, yellow card happy? You blew that whistle one more time, I'm gonna stick up your ass. Get off the field. Now, get off the field or your team is gonna forfeit the game. I'm going.
The ruthless Silvio Dante is a far cry from the zany Steven Van Zandt.
Ciao, how are you doing?
A far cry from the rock star who's toured the world and been on top of it professionally.
I'm making it up as I go along. And for me, I feel every personality, from Hitler to Gandhi, is inside all of us, okay? I think part of the
But
job,
just how did this rocker become a TV mobster with absolutely no acting experience?
And this is a strange story that, you know, really made me think about the whole concept of destiny and all that stuff.
In something right out of a Hollywood screenplay, Van Zandt was discovered. In 1997, he was giving the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speech for one of his favorite childhood bands, the Young Rascals.
Some people may not realize it, but the Rascals were the first rock band in the world.
Van Zandt's speech was a big hit.
Which is why I don't understand why it took so long to get into the Hall of Fame.
And watching it on TV from Hollywood was a producer named David Chase, who was developing a family drama about the mob for HBO.
He's very alive.
I don't know how else to describe it. It was the sexiest record I have ever heard in my life.
He's very smart.
That was when New Jersey soul was born, right there, you know?
And he's very funny.
Eddie and Felix, though, you see, to sound that black, you had to be Italian.
I was just drawn to his face. I thought, that's like the essence of Jersey.
So Chase asked Van Zandt to come in for an audition.
I just didn't take it very seriously, you know? But at that moment, you get nervous, because now, you know, you're in this chair in the middle of the room.
Chase was so impressed, he literally wrote Van Zandt into the script.
He walked in the door and he brought Dante with him.
It was part of an old treatment I had done many, many years earlier about a hitman who was running a Copacabana type of club.
But to build a Copacabana was too expensive, so they settled for the idea of a strip joint called Bada Bing, as in Bada Bing, Bada Boom.
There's a big gap between the Copacabana and the Bada Bing, right?
But it's all show business, you know. It's you know, this happens to be the lowest rung of show business.
Now, Van Zandt didn't have to bone up much on the genre. He was already something of a mafia aficionado. He'd seen all the mobster movies, and he especially loved Al Pacino.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
I wanted to do a bad imitation of him, you know, which I thought would be funnier.
All right, Kay. Just this one time, I'll let you ask me about my affairs. Is it true, Michael?
No. I actually studied it to get it exactly right, and then I exaggerated it and made it, you know, made it a little funnier. And of course, the other guys just think it's perfect.
He's on a roll!
In real life, Van Zandt is on a roll as well, touring once again with Springsteen and the reunited E Street Band, and releasing, finally, his long-anticipated 5th solo album, Born Again Savage. This reborn success must seem strange to Steven Van Zandt. The man who now seems to have it all had nothing going for him for much of the 1990s. He was out of work, something of a lost soul.
You know, it was an odd time. I mean, I don't really remember being all that concerned about it, you know? I mean, luckily, as I said, I just walked my dog for 7 years, and my dog probably saved my life.
Steven Van Zandt started playing music in 1965 as a New Jersey teenager in a band called The Shadows. That's when he met the lead singer for a rival band. His name was Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, we had a lot of different bands, you know. We all gravitated to Asbury Park.
Did you hit it off right away with Bruce?
Yeah, it was very, very odd in those days to have long hair, for instance. And so if you were in a band, you were friends. If you had long hair, you were friends. If you had long hair and were in a band, you were best friends.
Armed with nothing more than a 6-string guitar.
Yeah, well, it was just an odd lifestyle choice, you know.
What did your parents say?
My family defined the generation gap. I mean, my father, who I lost last year, was a Goldwater Republican ex-Marine. So you can imagine what it was like to have the only freak in the neighborhood in your house.
But despite his father's disapproval, Steven was committed to his music.
At which time we found this club called the Stone Pony, which was about to close, and we said, we're gonna play what we want. We'll take the door, you take the bar.
It turned out to be a phenomenally profitable arrangement. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band became one of rock's most creative and successful groups. For more than a decade, they rocked and rolled to stardom. But in the early 1980s, little Steven burned out. He broke off on his own, first as a solo artist, and then as a political activist, using his music to fight against nuclear power in the U.S. and apartheid in South Africa.
And I'm very proud of everything I did in that political arena.
But was it the best thing for your career, your musical career?
Oh, it was the end of my career. It absolutely ended my career.
To get involved in politics?
Yes.
In 1990, Van Zandt had burned out on politics too. But by then, record companies saw Little Steven as a commercial flop. So he was without a cause and without a job.
I go into the desert for 7 years and think that's what happens.
But then came The Sopranos and the job offer he couldn't refuse.
For a person like me, who basically spent 25 years learning about myself, to be somebody else for a while is a mental vacation.
Are you happy now, doing all this?
Yeah, I have a wonderful life. I have literally, I believe, the 2 best jobs in America.
What are you doing here?
Hey, Gabriela sends me down here for the gabagool.
The gabagool.
What seems clear to me is that Van Zandt is most happy when he's working in a collective setting, whether it's his new familia or his old Springsteen family. Both, perhaps, trying to recapture some of those
It does seem like a throwback to me.
Yeah, it is a throwback. I am a throwback. I mean, I'm not nostalgic about the 60s. I never left.
Steven Van Zandt says Silvio Dante, his TV alter ego, wouldn't be caught dead at a Bruce Springsteen concert. Silvio's taste run more towards Tony Bennett. Oh, and by the way, Maureen Van Zandt, Steven's wife of 17 years, she joined the cast of The Sopranos this season as Silvio's wife. When we come back...